Regents Prep number 7. Our aim today is why is the amendment process so important in allowing the Constitution to change over time? And obviously today we're going to learn about the amendment process, what we need to know about the amendment process for the Regents. And really what we're looking to do today is see, what is an amendment and how does it change or allow for change as time changes? Because the problems we had in 1789 when this was beginning to be created, 1791 when this was created, are very different than the problems we have today in 2014, 2013, 2015. All right, these are different problems. And how do we allow our Constitution to change over time? So the first thing we're going to look at is what exactly is an amendment. An amendment is a change in or addition to the United States Constitution. All right, this is a way in which the Constitution is changed or there's something added to it to deal with the changing times. When the Constitution was first created, if you guys recall, the Anti-Federalists refused to sign or agree to the Constitution unless the people's rights were protected. Remember, the Anti-Federalists actually wanted a stronger state government, but they said the Federalists wanted a strong federal government, and they said they would agree to the strong federal government as long as the people's rights were protected. And they forced the issue of people's protections. And that is where we get the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments, which were added right away. The first 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights guarantee basic, fundamental rights to the people. They protect the people against abuse from government. And the First Amendment is, if you guys remember, I gave you the acronym RAPS, right? The freedoms of expression, what we call them. Freedom of religion, assembly, petition, press, and speech. There's also the 10th Amendment, which is known as the Reserve Clause. Powers not given to the federal government are given to the state. Examples of that are education, driving laws, marriage. There's also a lot of other important ones in there. The Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure. People, the government or any sort of officials can't just come into your house and look for things. They need a warrant or they need some sort of, they need to see something in clear sight. Basically, what all of these first 10 do is they protect the people from the government. And that's what the Bill of Rights does. It protects the people from abuse from the government. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, or the Civil War Amendments, are also very important for the development of this country. All right, these come following the Civil War, and the reason these are important is they give African Americans more rights. After the Civil War, the 13th Amendment right away is going to abolish slavery. All right, it bans slavery or indentured servitude in this country for good. The 14th Amendment is going to give citizenship and civil rights to African Americans. And the 15th is going to give voting rights for African Americans to men. And while these three amendments give them more rights, all right, in the South, if you guys recall, the black codes and the Jim Crow laws minimize the rights of African Americans and minimize the amount of power they actually do have. So even though they have been given more rights by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments following the Civil War, the Jim Crow laws and the black codes in the South prevent them from having full equality. If you remember, they have like curfew, and in terms of voting, they have to do poll taxes and literacy exams and the grandfather clause. So really, this is a way to legally allow them to not give them their equal rights. Amendment 16 and 17. Amendment 16 allows the government income tax. All right, this allows the government to collect taxes on people's income, which allows them to obviously have more money. And the 17th Amendment allows direct election of senators. Senators are voted on by the people, and this makes it much more democratic. Amendments 18 and 21 are really kind of cancel each other out because Amendment number 18 bans alcohol in 1919, and Amendment number 21 brings it back in 1933. All right. In 1919, if you recall, the 18th Amendment is passed, and this bans alcohol. However, after alcohol is banned, they believe that violence is going to go down when in reality it goes up. You have bootlegging, you have speakeasies, you have rum running, you have all these things, organized crime, all of this to promote the sale of illegal alcohol. So by 1933, the United States realized that they are fighting a losing battle, and they reinstitute alcohol and unban alcohol. The 19th Amendment, very important, is women's suffrage, right? We need to know the word suffrage. It does not mean to suffer. Suffrage is the right to vote, all right? And Amendment 19, women's suffrage, gives women in the United States full voting rights. And if we recall back, one of the things that really catapulted them over, I mean, if you remember, 1848 is the Seneca Falls Convention, and still we're in women's suffrage is in 1920. In 1919, past 1920, it goes into effect. And women fought for over 70 years from Seneca Falls to get the right to vote. And what really puts them over the top is World War One, where they fight. They don't fight. They represent, everything on the home front. They work in the factories. They keep production up. They go to work because the men are at war. And when the men get back, they are so impressed and they realize that they have been treating women unfairly, and that they are their equals and they should have a say in the government. So some talking points for today. Why do you think it took women 70 years from the date of the Seneca Falls Convention to achieve full suffrage? What finally helped them to achieve their goal? Explain. Do you believe the amendment process is beneficial to the United States? Explain using evidence. And hopefully you guys develop a few questions to discuss in class tomorrow. Check for understanding number 1. We have the speaker question, so I'm going to read the question first, and then I'm going to go through the choices. How was the concern of Speaker A resolved? A. Adoption of the Elastic Clause. B. Establishment of the House of Representatives. C. Creation of the federal court system. Or D. Addition of the Bill of Rights. Speaker A says, as it stands now, the Constitution does not protect civil liberties. Now, I don't even need to read Speakers B, C, and D because this question is about Speaker A. So Speaker A says, as it stands now, the Constitution does not protect civil liberties. All right. How was Speaker A's concern resolved? And those are your 4 choices we'll talk about tomorrow in class. Our second check for understanding. A goal that was established at the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848 was achieved in 1920 by the creation of, creation of a free public education system, B, passage of legislation to end child labor, C, adoption of national women's suffrage, or D, ratification of an amendment requiring national prohibition. And the last check for understanding. After the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, why did African Americans continue to experience political and economic oppression? A, the amendments were not intended to solve their problems. B, many African Americans distrusted the federal government. C, Southern legislators enacted Jim Crow laws. Or D, poor communications kept people from learning about their legal rights. And we will talk more about this all tomorrow. Have a good night.